Hey guys, hello! Time to teach you one of the rare openings, side openings with white pieces that we haven't covered yet. I'm talking about white pieces by white, and we just have to beat all these side and pretty bad variations with white. So far we've been doing on all the variation except the f4 bird opening. So bird opening begins with first move f4 and then we go with e5. You have like so many possibilities, and including all these variations, one of the best ones, it's this gambit. It's called From's Gambit and starts with e5. After you play e5, they take, and then you go with the second pawn sacrifice and go with d6. Reminds me of Smith-Morra reversed. We just sack these two pawns in order to get like the active game of our pieces, and this is probably the most difficult variation for white to face. By the way, whoever plays bird opening and whoever plays from gambit with black pieces has to be ready for king's gambit with a possible e4, but maybe some other time. How do we play against the king's gambit? At the moment we talk about the From's Gambit, f4, e5, f takes, d6. They have to take it. Simply anything else would lead to a pretty comfortable game for black, so they take and we play bishop d6. By the way, they have nothing else but to play knight f3. Why? Because it stops queen h4. So what does it mean? Let's imagine it's black's turn. Black should go with queen h4, g3, and just to make it more beautiful, you can take by queen on g3 and mate the king. Just because queen h4 is threat, practically the only variation for white is knight f3 to prevent queen h4 and to get like good development with white. Although there are guys, including Bird himself, this game was played almost in the beginning of the 19th century in Hastings between Bird and Blackburn. And what happened in the game? Bird played g3, and ever since then Blackburn's approach with h5 was famous. This h5 move, black just wants to go and to push this pawn up to h4 and create like a lot of, you know how much we like this h5 move. We used it against the wing gambit, so basically we used it here as well. So after h5 we're just threatening h4. They can play bishop g2 because of h4, and you just have a very nice attack and you just pressure the g3 pawn. But the thing is, they all go with knight f3 and then you go h4. Practically there is only one move, it's rook g1. In case they don't play rook g1 but they play knight h4, you just sack the rook, g takes, and queen h4 is checkmate. In case they play a little bit better version of already bad line, taking on h4, g takes, you don't even have to take on h4 by rook because they're not going to take by knight and to get mated, but then you go bishop g4. You threaten to take on f3 and afterwards to take this pawn on h4 with absolutely winning game for black. That's why you go with, actually white goes with rook g1, you take on g3, and let's stop here. I found 4 games in database here, and believe it or not, white won all the games. In those 4 games, in 2 of them, black went with the best move, rook h1. What a nice and a little bit tragic comedy move here. Tragic comedy because white is with white pieces to face move like rook h1, it's pretty crazy. And at the same time, I just have to say that when, of course, that you can take on h1 because of bishop g3, so it's a nice piece of deflection, and they just have to go with king f2. And surprisingly, all those games were won by white because black took on g1. We're not gonna take, we're gonna make a novelty here, bringing this rook back to h5. So what's so special about this move? You just want to go with knight f6 and go with knight g or e4 afterwards. I played a game in blitz, because I already had this analysis with the rook h1 for like last couple of months, and one guy in blitz played g4, and I came up with this beautiful rook h2 rook sack. The thing is, when they go with knight h2, you just go queen h4, and look at this. They go king g2. Of course, it's checkmate, or you just win like whole bunch of material here. If king f3, you just include knight f6, and king is gonna get mated. We're gonna take this knight, and eventually we're gonna take on g4. And eventually, if they go with king e3, which is the best in this terrible position, you take on h2, you play queen h3, and you go with knight f6, going with this knight either on e4 or g4. Mate is inevitable here for white. So all these variations are just completely winning for black. Remember, whoever plays g3 will just follow the footsteps of Blackburn, played in Hastings, and the end of actually the beginning of the 19th century. And basically you just go with h5, but after knight f3 you just go with h4. And when they play rook g1, you take, and play this beautiful deflection move. And when they spoil castle and put a king on f2, you just say, okay, man, I'll put my rook back. Your rook is on g1. H-file is under my control. I want to play knight f6, knight g4, knight f6, knight e4 afterwards. King is weak. Pawn structure broken. Terrible development. And we're just going to kill them afterwards. So this is why they practically have to play the only move, knight f3. And then you go with g5. Then you go with g5. That's a key and I'd say essential move of this variation, because we're now threatening g4. Pushing this pawn up to g4 would either win the knight, or if they move the knight, we once again threaten queen h4 followed by queen, or bishop takes g3, checkmate. So they once again can play three moves: e4, g3, and d4. Practically the only good move for white is d4. If they play e4, which is bad, you just go with g4. Reminds me of some Muzio Gambit by white, but this is like in way worse version for white. It's completely lost for white, because they can't give us knight, and if they move the knight, we just go queen h4 and win at least some material, but basically it's around to be mate there. So they can't play e4, it's immediately lost. Lots of guys play g3, and here I just want to insist on this position, because this position requires some accuracy. Because I'll show you why and when. So you have to play g4, kicking this knight away. They have to play knight h4. And here we don't have any more h5 and h4. This knight on h4 is pretty troublesome for us, because I don't know how to carry on with the attack, right? But basically all you have to learn is the next move, knight e7. The point of knight e7 is that we want to go with knight g6, kicking that knight away from h4, and if they ever capture on g6, we'll recapture by h pawn and open the rook on h8. So knight e7 is a key move. Once again, they have two options, e4 and d4. d4 is practically the only one, and e4 is bad. e4 is bad because we play knight bc6. If you're wondering what's the point of this move, it prevents d4. It prevents d4 because of two variations. If they play d4, you can take on d4, and by the way, the queen cannot take, because you have this covered check, and the queen on d4 is fallen. Although they don't have to take, they should play some c3, you bring the knight back, and after some bishop g5, yes, we are better, but I'm not like too happy. So after like d4, it's way better to play knight g6. You're just forcing this knight to move. And when the knight moves, by the way, if knight g2, now definitely take on d4, because they can't take on d4 because of, once again, this covered check and the same type of trick. And if they play anything else, we're just jumping with this knight on f3 and killing them completely, also pushing this pawn up to h4, opening the h-file and breaking on the king's side. That's why they have to play knight g6 to take. and you play h takes g6, watch out. They can't prevent bishop takes g3 or followed by rook takes h1. If you're wondering why, just have some fun with this position at home. By the way, you're probably wondering what if e5, but I'm gonna give you some homework to make some analysis at home as well. Okay, so I showed you all the variations against this pretty bad move e4, d4. Usually I'm showing you games where I won, and this one I'm going to show you a game where I lost. I played against Nigel Short. It was a game played on Play Chess like 10 years ago. And I knew that this variation is supposed to be good with me, but you know, when you play blitz games, it's very important to play in the openings very accurately. So I didn't play, and I was supposed to play knight g6, and I didn't. I played knight bc6, and Nigel Short, you know, came out of blue, bishop g5. He made it immediately, and I realized I couldn't play a knight g6 anymore. I just played something like f6. He captured, played rook f8, and came up with this check, hoping that the queen d5 should give me a nice trick with the bishop g5 and rook on h1. When he played c3, I played queen d5, but I have to disappoint you. He won the game after bishop e7. I captured, played bishop g2, easily defended himself, and won the game. So just like you see, how important is to be accurate in like order of moves, and especially in the first like 10 moves in the openings. So here we just have to go with the knight g6. And after knight g6 they have to take or to bring the knight back to g2. I played like both type of systems after that game with almost like perfect score. So after knight g2 you just play h5 because you want to break along the h file with h4. If they play e4, it's very important to do this knight c6 move. Knight c6 threatening knight takes d4 with the same type of tricks related with this covered check, and they can take on d4, and we always have, when the knight is on g2, knight d4, knight takes, knight f3 check. So after e5, bishop e4, and after this, knight d4. Queen cannot touch the knight because you take it, and when they take bishop, because they have to, otherwise this knight is gonna jump on f3. When they win this piece, knight f3, king e2, and play this bishop d7 move. With the king on e2, with the possibility to play queen e7. By the way, they have to play knight c3 and you play queen e7. To take on e5, to play long castle, this is practically completely lost game for white. I played a couple of games like this. It's very easy game for black, and you can be like very creative. When they take on g6 instead of going on g2, you just recapture, and it's always a very pleasant type of game because bishop is open. You just threaten bishop takes g3 followed by rook h1. Your rook on h8 is open, and they have terrible problems. The only move is queen d3, removing the queen from all those pins, defending on g3, and hoping to build up a good center with e4. Even though it looks at first glance fine, you go with knight c6, threatening the same old idea, and you go with queen e7. Please, at this point, don't go just like Grandmaster Cotronias did once. He played bishop f5 and provoked white to play e4 and then brought the bishop back on e6. That tempi turned out to be like one of decisive like mistakes or tempes in favor of white. And that's why you have to immediately play bishop e6, knight e2, and long castle. So here you have it. Once again, I played a blitz game when the guy played e4, I played f5. Now I was threatening to, you know, like I'm just crushing his center. I'm taking advantage of the king being weak here. And the thing is, they can't play any takes f5 because you just play and take by bishop. Queen is hanging this one. When they play like this, you can, I don't know, you can sack on h2, play rook d on e8, move the queen and play rook e8. Position is completely terrible for them. And by the way, when this guy played queen e3, I played a nice move, bishop d5. They can't touch the bishop, queen was hanging. They can't touch the pawn, bishop was hanging, of course his queen as well. And in case of e5, bishop takes g2, so the guy played knight f1, I took on e4, and they eventually won the game very easily. So showing you practically the only move in this position instead of e4 for white. They just have to go with knight to e4. When the knight goes on e4, it wants to take on d6. Very reasonable choice by white, and also threatens bishop g5. I believe this is practically the only good variation for white in this line with early g3. And then you just go rook h5. You prevent bishop g5, you control fifth rank with this rook, and you maybe want to go and double up your rooks in the h file. Very powerful move. After knight d6, queen takes d6, but for those who like engine analysis, engine keeps giving as a better choice c takes d6, followed by d5, bishop f5, control on the light squares, and doubling rooks on the h file. A little bit crazy and I'd say artificial type of chess, but if you like it, let it be. In the game, Kjetil Lee against Shulskis played in European Club Cup back to 2011. The guy captured by queen, brought this queen back onto d7 and played g5, played knight e5 and jumped on f3. After g takes f3, even though black was down a pawn, his position was certainly better because he had like better development of his pieces. Our king on c8 is safer than the king on e1, and we of course have like a great control of the light squares. White is not supposed to play like this. All things considered, this is pretty bad, and that's why they have to go with d4. Those who go with d4, you just kick the knight away with g4, and they have two options. They have knight e5, which in my opinion is the best, and they have knight g5. Those who play knight g5, it's quite reasonable attempt by white because they like to chase away the bishop on d6 and to fight off that piece. Pretty good idea. And here I can give you a move that scores well in practice. It's knight c6, knight e4, bishop f5, and taking like this and playing long castle. Black looks pretty fine, and you just control the center, but he's got a pawn up and the bishop pair. So I'm not so sure that this could be like fully, with a full compensation for black. Looks like, but I'm not completely sure. I'm not too convinced. After knight g5, absolutely the best move is f5. It prevents knight e4, imprisons this knight, and threatens h6 to win this piece. When they play like e4, you play h6. Knight is trapped. They have to play e5, bishop e7. And you know, when I analyzed this position for the first time, I just wanted to see how many players lost their knight like this. And then I was completely shocked. Like, found more than 60 games by white where white played knight h3. So for a long time, this was like one of the main variations of the bird's opening, and this was like favorite gambit by white players. Nowadays, it's considered to be bad, and I'm gonna show you the refutation. G takes h3 and queen h5, and once again, I found more than 16 games in database played by club players, rated average around 2250 FIDE, which is around FIDE master strength. So guys, get ready to learn this and to crush FIDE masters. So you play king f8, they go with bishop c4 threatening mate in 1, rook h7, c3, because we're just threatening to take on d4 and their center is about to fall. c3, we play bishop g5. They go with knight d2, we take. They have to take, and the key defensive resource that basically saves the day is bishop h4 followed by queen g5. They go queen e2 to grab the pawn on g2, we play rook g7. Black is absolutely better, although you have to learn this stuff. I'm also willing to say that if you if you're ready to take some chances, you can play like this. If not, then go with knight g5 and play knight c6. It's all your choice, whether you want to learn the previous variation by heart and learn the refutation, or play on compensation with the knight c6. That's why everyone goes with knight e5, and I couldn't find anything better than bishop e5 for you, queen d1, and go into this endgame. This endgame was known even from the beginning of the 19th century in games like Bird against Lasker, Brinkman against Tartakower, and even at that time was absolutely obvious that this variation goes nowhere for them. And after like bishop f4, it's the first engine choice, you just go knight g on e7. This knight goes on either g6 to pick the pawn on e5, or it goes on d5 to chase away the bishop and possibly go after e3 square, possible weakness, or if they don't have the knight on c3, then in some of the variations your knight goes on d5. I just have to disappoint you that after knight c3, bishop e6, e3, long castle's position is absolutely equal. Even though they have a bishop here and pawn up, it's just for the, like for temporarily for maybe move or two more. Then you just go knight g6, take on e5 and equalize this. Their advantage is those bishops. Weakness and pretty positive thing about this position is that the king is misplaced on d1. They have a broken castle. They have a broken pawn structure, so basically 3 pawn islands even when we win this pawn on e5. And I just want to show you what happens if they play like e3, bishop e6, knight e2, showing you once again the game of Grandmaster Šulskis from Lithuania. Pretty good one, because I like this guy because he likes gambits and odd systems. Played long castles, bishop d3, knight g6, bishop g5, rook e8, bishop f6, rook g8. This is what I told you. Temporarily you look like you can't keep up the material, but don't worry about that. Here e5 pawn is about to fall. This guy played knight e4, he played bishop d5, and after c4, captured on e5. Very nice move. Bishop was threatened, this knight and pawn as well, so they had to take the bishop. You take the bishop, threaten the knight on e4, and practically they can't stop knight f2 if they move the knight. So they have to play king d2, rook e4, rook e8, threatening the pawn on e3, and after bishop d4, f5. I'd like to stop here and to tell you black looks much better. White's pawn structure is broken. Knight does better in this type of a block type of game than White's bishop. You even want to play some knight h4, knight f3 if they play g3. You maybe want to play some f4 if they take capturing by bishop. You want to maybe approach with the king to the pawn on d5, and position just looks better. That's why they have to play bishop f4. You play knight e7. They gotta go with knight c3, you play bishop e6, and after this position is considered to be equal. Well, this was a short lecture and a course, how should we create the bird opening, one of the rare openings that we haven't covered yet. Hope you liked it, and once again we did it in the same fashion, Gambit style. Thanks for watching, see you next time.